Hello and welcome back to our special bonus Australia GP Pyramid Ranking. I'm Zoe, here with Hannah.
What's up?
All right. We still don't have our magic whiteboard yet, but
No, that's okay.
this is going to be the running joke that we are going to keep talking about it and it's never going to actually
I think it's fine.
appear.
You can pretend there's one there and you can picture it, and that way you can picture it how you want to picture it.
Yes, exactly. If this is your first pyramid ranking, welcome. We do this every race weekend, go through the winners, the losers of the weekend. Just a quick reminder of the different tiers. So the bottom tier are the worst performers of the weekend. Third tier, not good, not bad, but at least we're talking about them. Second, very strong, but not quite perfect. And top is obviously best performer of the weekend. We typically have a honorable mention slot.
This will be our first without one.
We do not need said honorable mention slot this weekend. Somebody earned the top spot pure, like they earned
it.
Yeah, there's no caveats.
Yeah.
There's no asterisk.
You love to see it.
Yeah, we love to see it. All right, should we start with the bottom?
Let's do it.
Makes sense to start with the bottom and work our way up.
It certainly does.
So it's a typical pyramid, 4, 3, 2, 1. I think that makes sense. But so first on the bottom, we have Mercedes as a whole.
Yeah.
It's just been a rough go.
It's really rough.
I mean, it's rough as a team. It's especially rough for Lewis.
Yeah.
I feel like he has just been...
Yeah, I mean, I think he must just feel so relieved that he knows it's his last season,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. Like, it just is what it is, and like next year he can start fresh.
Yeah, he got out qualified again by George, did make it into Q3, got out in Q2.
Which is, I think they said, the first time since 2010.
Yeah. First time that he hasn't gone into Q3 in Australia.
Oh.
I think is what it was. Because he's definitely gotten out in Q2
That's
before.
what I thought. I was like, that feels...
Yeah, I think it's Australia.
Okay. Makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, he clearly is not comfortable with this car.
Yeah.
It just is not jiving with him. And it makes sense, right? As you get older, you're just more used to what you're used to. And it's harder for you to work with something that just isn't good.
For sure. And I could also imagine that George is maybe getting, even though Lewis would still, I would say, be considered first, like driver number one.
Yeah.
It also would make sense if in a lot of ways they're focusing on George and George's car because George is staying.
Right.
Right.
Obviously,
I don't know.
Lewis had the engine failure during the race. Was nice of him to I think he probably tried to get it all the way back to the pits, but he at least found a place where they didn't have to take too much time to actually clear the car and whatnot, which I'm sure certain people were thankful that they didn't have to bring out. Because I think they just did a virtual safety car. So that was probably good. And then obviously George, I mean, that was terrifying.
It was really scary. And like it came out of nowhere at the very end. Like I was like, okay, well at least someone's doing all right. And nope, not good.
And he, I mean, just out there in the middle of the track.
Yeah, it was scary.
Immediately, I think you can find it on social media. If you listen to his onboard, he immediately is like, red flag, red flag, red. Like he is begging for a red flag because he is in the middle of the track.
Totally.
They didn't
I'm shocked.
I know. I mean, part of it is people were saying, well, it's the last lap. So
but it's a safety thing.
Right. And I think, and I saw someone say, I guess in NASCAR, if there's a red flag on the last lap, then like the race is over. There's not a restart. It's just the last, that's it, which it could be a little dicey if somebody was catching somebody on the last lap or something. But I do think it could have been really bad.
Yeah.
And if someone had not been, I mean, imagine, I think Lance was the car, right, like the closest to him, but he still had enough time where his
really
engineer was like telling him, George.
Yeah, and that's part of what I wondered. Like, did they just go yellow flag because there was enough time between George and the car behind him to like really communicate that they need to slow down? I agree. I think it still should have been red flag, but
it was too dangerous. And I'm glad he's okay. But and that's why also, I mean, we talked about this before, why teams will. Because this stuff can happen, like a last lap DNF can happen. And I mean, we saw, I think it was K-Mag got promoted into the points and he didn't think he was going to get into the points. Like this is why teams try to fight for every single position, especially close to that top 10, because you never know if something like that's going to happen.
For
and
sure.
George is kind of, I mean, this happened in Singapore. It wasn't the last lap, I don't think, but it was like the last 3 laps or something. He DNF'd. Like,
It's a bummer.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Because we've talked about it too. Like, would you rather DNF at the beginning or the end?
Beginning.
Absolutely. Because to know, like, you
also
what could have, pretty much, especially in this scenario, he knew where he was going to end up.
Yep.
And then to know that he just like didn't get any of that is crap.
Rough. And yeah, it was very tough. Next on the bottom, we have the Sauber pit stop woes that just keep continuing. Obviously,
So
Valtteri
sad.
had in Bahrain, he had the, whatever it was, 50-second
Something
pit stop.
horrible.
Joe had it in this race, like 30+ second.
Yeah.
pit
And even
stop.
like not in a racing environment, sitting still for 50 seconds is really hard.
And also when you're like,
so yeah, with the
let's go,
adrenaline
let's go,
and you've got a
it
job
feels
to do,
way
you're just like,
worse.
yeah, I can only imagine.
And I think I think Martin Brundle even said, I think Valtteri, after Joe's bad pit stop, then Valtteri went in for a pit stop, and it wasn't that long, but it wasn't good. It wasn't like what people should be doing. And he basically was like, that's an achievement for them, that they didn't have the like terrible pit stop was a victory in and of itself.
Which, we all got to take the little wins.
Exactly. So I hope for their sake, the drivers, everyone, that they figure out the pit stop situation, because that's really an unforced error. Like,
yeah, and because there's something going on, like something's threaded wrong, or is that what's happening? Like there's a bolt that it keeps messing up or something. It's awful. And to know that they anticipate it to be an issue.
Yes.
It's got to suck.
Yes, exactly. And to be that person that has to get that specific one off is like a lot of stress, I have to imagine.
Sure.
The next bottom is Logan's confidence, which we obviously went into much more detail in the race recap episode. But that decision to pull him out of the car and replace him with Alex, I think it was a tough decision.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was potentially, I mean, again, we can never judge the decision based off the result.
Sure.
Because you don't know what the result's going to be when you make the decision.
Hindsight,
But it cannot be positive for his confidence in any sort of way.
No.
And I just really feel for him.
I know. It just sucks. And I have to imagine, like, he obviously understands, but it doesn't help. Like, business decisions are never fun.
Never fun.
It's almost impossible to not take it personally.
Right. And
no matter how much you logically understand.
Right. And also, again, this is only race 3. Like, we have 21 races left to go. There's still so much left to play for that you wonder if this was a little bit premature or who knows. And again, we said this last week, I think. 1 point can make the difference between finishing 7th or finishing 8th or whatever. And so in that regard, you can understand why James made the decision he did. But will this ultimately hurt them more down the road because Logan feels like his team doesn't believe in him?
Yeah. It's hard to say, but also numbers don't lie.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
We'll
see. Well,
we'll
really
see.
time will tell.
Yeah.
And then the final bottom spot, which I don't know that he's fully deserving of the bottom, but I guess kind of, is Daniel and his performance. So he's just been on the back foot the whole weekend.
Which is a bummer because, home race, but.
Yeah. And then he had track limits in qualifying, which kicked him out in Q1. And, when you start from the back, he started P18, which was essentially last because Joe started from the pit lane and obviously Logan wasn't racing. You're just gonna, he was fine. Like, he did perfectly fine in the race. He finished, I think, 12th. Like, he was fine. He passed he did better than cars that started in front of him in the race. But that's why qualifying is so important.
Totally.
Because if he had qualified better, he probably could have gotten points this weekend.
Yeah.
And he has been outperformed by Yuki so far. And we know it's a long season, and again, anything can happen and things can change quickly, but he's just got to get it together because whether it's, the Red Bull seat he's wanting or just to stay in Formula One, I think people have kind of lost their patience with him or sort of their I think we can all, and I'm not saying he's having, and he even said, he's like, this is not a McLaren situation. Like, I am not as lost and confused as I was with them. And he's like, it's a few things that are just not quite adding up, but we'll
get there.
He thinks it's fixable.
Yeah.
But it's like,
which is
okay,
good.
but let's see it now.
Yeah.
You know?
Time.
And it's funny,
time.
like, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like he was way more on it and competitive last season with the very short amount of races he had than he has been so far this season. It doesn't quite really make sense.
Yeah, but maybe he just feels more comfortable, like he has less to lose now. I don't know.
Who knows? We'll see. But
or he just has genuine understanding of like what the issues are, and like there's only so much he can do to control said issues, I guess. We'll see.
We'll see. All right. Moving on to the third tier. We have, starting off, is Red Bull, which is a little shocking that they're in the third tier. But, you know, obviously Max gets pole position, which is great. And then for lots of teams, that's a mega achievement. But then he
for Red Bull, it's just a Tuesday,
which was
Sunday,
crazy.
yeah.
The DNF, I mean,
insane.
The freaking, when I started seeing that smoke, I was like, oh my God.
And we discussed this on the episode, but of all the weeks for me to pull Max Verstappen out of the hat, I know no one feels bad for me, and that's fine. But what a bummer.
Yeah, Hannah's driver was Max this week. Ironic, you know.
I was really arrogant about it last. I was so excited.
Yeah, and funny that this was, you know, the last place he DNF'd was Australia.
Yeah,
and
but 2 years ago. So I've officially my bucket list. See Max DNF.
You saw it.
I don't know if it was a bucket list item.
Yeah,
it's happened.
Kind of it was.
Yeah.
And now and then Checo, you know, Checo qualified P3, but then got the penalty for impeding Nico. So then ended up starting P6. And I did read that he had a little bit of floor damage, like during the race. He got some floor damage, which I think affected his pace towards the end of the race. But he was never a threat to win, I felt like.
No.
And it wasn't a bad weekend from him necessarily. He just wasn't in the conversation.
Agreed.
And
the only time I ever really heard him was when, about him was when Lewis and George were both like,
it's a rocket ship.
It's a rocket ship.
Right. Which then it's like, if it is a rocket ship, then
where is he?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So, and I know he's been on the podium, both races. I think so.
Yeah.
So like he's done fine. It's
totally.
It's just interesting that he wasn't more in the conversation this week, but honestly kind of love that it wasn't a Red Bull weekend. Like,
me too.
Nice that
it was a fun podium.
It was nice that we could talk about other teams and other people.
Yeah.
All right, and then the next on the third tier we have Alex Albon. Not because, well, I mean, he did do something wrong. He crashed in practice and destroyed his car and his chassis, which
birthday weekend
then led to everything that has happened. I think he had a fine race. I think, again, he qualified in a decent position and kind of benefited from his qualifying position. But it wasn't anything. I felt like there was a lot of pressure on him to get points this weekend because of the decision that was made. Mm-hmm. And so him not getting those points.
Yeah, I feel like he gets in his head a lot when there's that kind of pressure.
I agree.
Like it was giving Alex at Red Bull a little.
Yeah.
Not same level of pressure, but in the same kind of idea of,
oh shit, I gotta go for it. And
they picked me and now it's all on my shoulders.
Yes, exactly. And then the last spot on the third tier, we have Mr. Fernando Alonso. You know, an okay weekend for him. I mean, Aston Martin's been like fine.
Yeah.
They're definitely clearly the fifth fastest team behind Red Bull. Well, actually, I don't know. I guess they're probably not quite as fast as Mercedes actually, but I think that's very track dependent. They might be the fourth fastest team. But the penalty, I mean, he got a 20-second penalty for his defensive driving. He was like basically
I don't even think I knew you could get a 20-second penalty.
Well, it was supposed to be a like drive-through penalty, which obviously but it was after the race, so he couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So that's why it was 20 seconds. But you know, I don't think Fernando wanted to. I mean, I don't obviously know what was inside of his head. I don't imagine that he was trying to like drive dangerously.
Yeah.
But it could have been
really bad.
And it affected. I mean, he then went from P7 or P6, I can't remember, to P8, and promoted. Lance got P6 and Yuki got P7. So good for them, but not great for. And it's crazy like how, when in the last lap, Yuki thought he was going to be P9.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's P7.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And good on Yuki because.
Yeah. Know. So going on to our second tier, speaking of Mr. Yuki, we have Yuki, who had a great weekend. He has been on it from the beginning. He had a great qualified P8, which was really impressive. Getting into Q3, he's gotten into Q3 now 2 weekends in a row. Like just.
And let's not forget, the style is just styling.
And I just, again, I wanna ask, like, why are we not considering Yuki for the second Red Bull seat? I understand people have issues with his like anger
chaotic,
or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like, I don't know. Is it really that much more crazy than like some of the other drivers?
No.
I don't know that it is. Like, he's been really, really impressive. It's just, I feel like he is, I don't know why other people aren't taking him more seriously than
I don't know.
And
they might know more. Like, there might be more involved in the like dynamic of the relationship or whatever behind the scenes.
I just feel like if it was any other driver, I think the opinion would be different.
Sure.
Like if it was Daniel that was doing this, like people will be like, get him in the Red Bull seat tomorrow.
Totally.
So I don't know. I think he did really, really well. And again, like in the race itself, it wasn't like he may have overtaken one person, which was Pierre, but they were on a different, it was like, Pierre hadn't pitted yet. So his tires were super old. Like he didn't make any crazy overtakes. He just kind of stayed in his place, but which is what he had to do.
Right.
And it benefited him. So
agreed.
Congratulations to him. And then we have McLaren, very strong
excited for them.
Weekend. Lando, obviously podium. Oscar, I did kind of want Oscar on the podium.
I did too. If I'm honest, I wanted a Carlos Lando Oscar podium. I mean, that's fine. I know that you didn't, and I'm happy for Charles. But that's what I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted a Charles win.
Yeah. I didn't really. I mean, it's not that I didn't. I was happy with either one.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was it was nice to see. Obviously, it's been a big week for Lando.
Yeah.
Been a very big week for him.
Yep.
So happy for him.
My obsession with him keeps climbing, which is a little.
Well, you got the shirt on.
Yeah, I do have the shirt on. Shout out to Abercrombie for collab of the year.
The collab of the year.
I think it was from last year, but
yeah,
it was the collab of a year.
Yeah, some year. Yeah, loved it. Happy for them. And hope that they continue to succeed. And then, of course, first top of the pyramid, we've got Mr. Carlos Sainz.
What a ledge.
Smooth operator.
Smooth operator. Tell me we have it. It's the best thing he says. Truly, all the time. It's my favorite. Tell me we have it.
He's a little like, he is very like
cringe.
Yeah, like corny. I'm like,
totally.
Like what? Like there's a little yeah. There's a little part of me that's just like a little
over it.
a little slightly icked. Like,
oh wow.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Which I know that's like
that's okay.
A me problem and not a him problem. But like there's just a bit of like, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
pipe down.
Like the smooth operator thing, like I get it, but it's just like
you knew we had it. No one has to tell you.
Yeah. Like it's funny. It was funny when he said it the first time, like, because it was pole. It was, and it also different.
Pole.
It was for pole position. Like,
yeah,
it's.
Like, I didn't know this was becoming like a reoccurring segment. You know, from
and
him.
Like you have it because you cross the line burst. Like pole, right. It's obviously different because you're trying to wait for the time.
Yeah,
So, but all that to say, happy for Carlos.
Yeah.
Obviously, like. He, as he said, he is jobless currently. So like,
so true.
This is a great, as my dad says, justice for Carlos. And I mean, I think we all can, if you're a Carlos fan, you can sleep easy. He's going to get a good seat. He's going to be totally fine.
Yeah. I'm just so curious to know where.
I know. Who knows?
Yeah. Not me.
Not me either.
I wonder if he does.
Probably not.
Yeah.
There's lots of dominoes that need to fall and things that people need to figure out. But happy for him. Obviously, appendectomy surgery, and then 2 weeks later, it's a nice little story. I mean, I hope
It's a good story.
Drive to Survive.
I'm sure they've got to.
Because it's really written for the TV.
Yeah, and he's still, as we saw in Lando's Instagram, still bandaged. I mean, when he sat down in the cool down room, he really looked like he was in quite a bit of pain.
When he got out of the car, he kind of like slid off the top of the he kind of like slid down off the car.
Yeah,
like there was no like standing up, fist pump, none of that. Like
totally.
It was like I am gingerly moving.
Yeah. Like I had my appendix taken out in high school, and I was up and moving pretty quickly after that. Because they did it laparoscopically also. But like I was still on pain meds for a little while because you had abdominal surgery.
Yeah.
And there's no way he's taking, well, I would imagine he's not taking any heavy pain meds because he can't operate a motor vehicle typically, at least in America with,
yes,
they advise against that.
Yes.
So he's probably just, popping ibuprofen or something and then cruising around.
Yeah. Well, and also I imagine he's not like training or doing any of that stuff either, to prepare for. I mean, it's a good thing it wasn't like, I mean, I know every race is physical, but it's good it wasn't like like one of the tracks where people are like, it's like a Singapore or a Qatar where people are like, this is such a physical track.
Yeah.
And it's super, I mean, I think it's relatively warm in Australia right now, but it's more of like their fall, like time.
Oh yes. Lots of leaves on the track.
Yeah. So it's not as hot. But regardless of all that, did a great job. And Vamos. Yeah. We saw
also Carlos Sr. Love.
Yeah. And we saw Carlos Dos.
Yeah, of course. I feel like there was a slow-mo of him going Vamos.
There was.
I was like, wow, I want that tattooed.
There was.
You can't though tattoo a GIF or whatever.
Right. Someday probably that could happen.
Weird.
So yeah, that was the Australia GP. It was a very refreshing race. I think
it was refreshing.
It was nice to have. I mean, obviously, like. It's nothing against Max. It's nothing against Max personally. It's just, it's nice to have and to be honest though, like it wasn't like this was a super competitive, like it was pretty clear from basically Max's DNF that Carlos was going to win.
For sure.
Unless he had some issue, he was going to win the race. Like he was well ahead. Yeah. He had the pace to, it wasn't like there was some great battle or it was like, oh my God, it's like a fight between 3 cars for the win. That didn't feel like the case, but even still, it was just kind of nice to have something different.
Agreed.
To hear different national anthem.
Yeah, it was so fun.
To hear the Italian national anthem.
Oh my God, they were so excited.
They were super jazzed.
So cute.
Fred, all of it. Like, loved it all. And just happy for Ferrari's trajectory going forward.
Yeah.
And
let's for the Tifosi.
Let's win the next one too. Like, let's just keep the good vibes rolling and fight for that championship,
Love it. Imagine.
I feel like speaking of Smooth Operator, I feel like we should end this not saying our typical word, but singing a little bit of Smooth Operator.
Oh, singing.
Or we can do like
Smooth
like just say it once.
Okay.
I don't know how or should we sing it?
I don't know. I feel
okay. I'm gonna count us down and we'll just sing it out. It'll be like an outro. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Smooth Operator.
I didn't know where we were coming in. We didn't rehearse this, which I know is shocking to everyone watching.
Goodbye, everybody.
So long.